equals how many ounces. Okay, so we're going from one thing that I would suggest doing is anytime you have this, it's probably a good thing to write bigger to smaller is multiply, okay, and then smaller to bigger is divide. So I would write this on the top of my scrap sheet or scrap paper every time I'm doing conversions. I would just write this and make sure, and then I would say, okay, pounds to ounces. What is that? So pounds, it says 1 pound equals 16 ounces. So this is another thing that is somewhat backwards. So the unit that actually has 1, right, which is less than 16, is actually the bigger unit, right? Because there's 16 ounces in 1 pound. So it's like, think about dollars and cents, right? $1 equals 100 cents. So everyone knows that a dollar is more than a cent, right? So a dollar is bigger because there's 100 cents within each dollar. So for this, any of these conversion rates, the one that has 1 next to it is going to be bigger, okay? Because it means 16 ounces fit into 1 pound, okay? So in this case, we're going 25 pounds to ounces. That means we're going from bigger to smaller, okay? So which means we have to multiply. So it's always good to just write, okay, this is bigger to smaller, so we need to multiply. And what are we multiplying? So it's 25, the amount of pounds we have, times 16, right? Because that's what we're always multiplying or dividing by in pounds and ounces, because we're multiplying or dividing by the amount of the smaller one, the smaller unit, that goes into the bigger unit. So it's just 25 times 16. Okay, we can just do this math. 6 times 5 is 30. 6 times 2 is 12. Plus 3 equals 15. I put a 0 down here because we're multiplying by 10. And the 0 makes it 10, right? So 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 2 is 2. So 150 plus 250 is 400. So 25 pounds equals 400. Always remember to write the unit. So it is 400 ounces. Okay, let's do a couple other ones. Okay, I'm going to leave this here because this is extremely important. Okay, bigger to smaller, multiply, smaller to bigger, divide. You should always write this on your scrap sheet or whatever you're doing work on with conversions, because it's extremely important, and it's it's extremely easy to just forget this as well and get confused about it. I even get confused myself sometimes just because it's 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 different than you think it should be, because usually multiplying gets you bigger numbers, dividing gets you smaller numbers, but in this case, bigger to smaller is multiply. So it's just opposite of what it should be. So it's good to just write this down so you know. So let's do another question. So 38 pints, okay, equals blank gallons. All right, so let's figure out. Pints is over here, okay, and there's 8 pints in 1 gallon. So since 8 pints go in 1 gallon, pints is smaller, right? So that means we're going smaller to bigger. So we have to divide. And what are we dividing by? We're dividing by 8. So we have 38 pints divided by 8 will give us the amount in gallons. So I know that 38 divided by 8 equals 4, which 8 times 4 is 32, and then it's remainder 6. Okay? So 4 remainder 6. Now, can you have 4 remainder 6 gallons? Can you go to the store and buy remainder 6 gallons? Of course not. So this is not the answer, okay? But what we need to do is convert this into a fraction. And how you convert remainders into a fraction when you are dividing is you actually put the remainder as the numerator, okay? So the remainder is 6, so the remainder becomes the numerator, and then the denominator is what you divided by. So it is 4 6/8. Now, this might not actually be the answer on a multiple choice test because 6/8 is not reduced. It's not proper form. So I know that both of these are even. So if both of them can be divided by the same number, then we should do that to reduce it. So we can divide 6 divided by 2, which is 3. 8 divided by 2 is 4. So that means that the answer is 4 3/4 gallons. Okay? So 4 3/4 gallons. This is important to know how to convert a remainder into a fraction, because as I said, you cannot buy remainder 6 milk at the store, right?